Right? Okay, so before I have you introduce yourselves, I'm going to do a brief break the fourth wall moment. Okay, we were always going to do this episode. Always, always, always. And then Tracy... Tracy decided that he was going to become the principal librarian of the Iceland Symphony Orchestra. So he's leaving us in a few weeks, which accelerated the timeline that we had to capture the U2 together on camera via podcast and also visual medium before you left. So this is your fault.
Yes, I decided that I was taking...
I remember the day you applied.
Oh yeah, you were right beside me. You were right over here. Mm-hmm.
You were like, oh, should I do... I don't know. It was really casual.
And she didn't tell you, Dani.
Well, you know.
Hi everyone, welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Dani Meyer, that's Sauce Boss, and on today's episode, Serena and I talked to our current music library. I say current because head librarian Tracy Bass is moving to take head library of the Iceland Symphony Orchestra in just a few weeks. We're very sad for us and very happy for Tracy. We're also thrilled that Nick Buonanni is going to be stepping into the head librarian position, and so we know we're going to be in good hands. In any case, today's episode was an absolute hoot. That's a new word. The way Sauce turned to camera was pretty on point. It was a joy. It was a treat. It was a delight. You're going to love it. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy.
I was like, yeah, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, well, might as well throw my resume in.
Yes, that's what you said. Might as well throw it in.
You never know.
You did it in 5 minutes, and then I guess
Oops.
That's how great he is.
So this is your fault.
No, I just encouraged this behavior.
Your Honor, I did not steal the librarian.
She was there the moment.
I went, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh my god. All right. Well, the three of you heathens, please introduce yourselves. Nick, would you start?
What do you want?
It's so that the people who are listening audio only know whose voice is.
Oh, well, my name is Nick, or Nicholas on paper, Buonanni, and I am the librarian here at the Omaha Symphony.
Mm-hmm. And soon to be head librarian once Tracy absconds.
And I'm Tracy Bass. I'm currently the head librarian here. And as you have probably figured it out by now, I'm apparently running away.
Very accurate.
My name is Serena Royton. I'm the assistant conductor.
And I'm Dani Meyer, and I'm stuck temporarily with all three of you. Soon to just two of you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm very sad. So the sadder I am, the meaner I'm going to be. Just a heads up.
That's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have to mask the sadness.
I literally had to talk to my therapist about this.
Go on.
What's the worst? What's the most annoying thing?
I was like, I feel like it's that kid in elementary school that, like, they come home and they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah has been doing this. And the mom's like, oh, they like you, right? It's kind of like that vibe right now. Like, he's going out of his way to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
So that I think in his mind he doesn't have to deal with that he would actually miss working together, and also in some weird way make me not miss him immediately. So
I either am going to be mean or I'll cry all the time. So you get one or the other.
I've noticed you've tailored that treatment towards me as being nicer and more clingy.
Mm-hmm.
More clingy?
Yeah, he's been hugging me a lot more often. And like we were at like a 0 hug per quarter quota, and you've like 500%
It's all about giving you what you don't want.
yeah.
And on that note,
That is not what the librarians do on the show.
you actually, all right, in all seriousness, you two, music librarians are kind of experts on giving people exactly what they do want musically, whether or not they know how to articulate what they want, right? Like,
And before they even know, they might want it or need it.
That's exactly right. And you kind of become like this combination of archaeologist, sleuth, and mind reader, and then you have to pair it all with prioritization and organization and great handwriting, because God knows a person could have all the rest of those things, but if they don't have good handwriting, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I got the job.
That's it though. Like neither of you started down your path thinking like growing up like I'm going to be a music librarian. You both started off as musicians. So we're going to ask you the same question we ask everybody. Do you remember your first orchestra concert? And I'm going to add one. Did you start lessons before you heard your first orchestra, or vice versa? You heard your first orchestra and then started lessons.
You want to go first?
So my first orchestra concert was an educational concert at the Tupperware Center in Orlando, Florida, and they were playing Peter and the Wolf. And I only know that because it was right down the street from my house. It was also right next to, oh God, what is it called? Alligator Land?
Oh, Gatorland.
Gatorland.
Yeah.
Gatorland. It's like right next to that, like the big gator head was the Tupperware Center. And we went there and they were playing Peter and the Wolf. And that was, elementary school. So I hadn't started band or anything like that yet. So no, lessons came later.
Okay. Tracy?
I don't remember yes, this is a bone holder.
Every time you hold that up, I keep thinking you're like on The Price is Right, but continue.
I don't remember the first one. It was a similar thing, like it was an education concert that came to my elementary school. I think it was just a string quartet or something, though. I think it was just a chamber group. But I had started piano lessons when I was young, 7, 6, sometime around there. So I had kind of had some lessons, but didn't know what orchestra was.
Okay, so we're finding that in some cases people are, especially with pianists, it's like they're almost more inclined to start on piano before they've heard someone else besides their teacher or an older sibling start on piano. But you both had, you had some piano, but you both had an orchestral experience or a ensemble experience of some kind before you started lessons. So then, Nick, we're gonna do a deep dive at some point. Nick's story of how he became a flute player and then consequentially MVP of every wind instrument known to man starts off with learning flute on a mini Louisville Slugger bat and a Coke bottle. So future episode. But when did you guys know that you wanted to do, when you wanted to make music of some sort a career?
Well, it happened for me later. So I didn't go to college directly out of high school. I just worked for many years. It was, a weird time in my life, but I always thought, well, to be successful in music, it's who you know. And oddly, that's surprisingly accurate. But, for that reason, I didn't start college right away. And I just kind of worked for many years. And I ended up going to college at the end of my 20s into my 30s and everything. And I had wanted to either be an interior designer or I was like, or I still know how to play flute. And so I started working on like an interior design portfolio and started taking lessons with the local college professor, a couple of them, to kind of get a sense of what it would be like and everything. And this was while starting my associate's degree. So I did like community college, general ed, associates, and during those 2 years I kind of worked on those 2 career pathways, and I really hit it off with my soon-to-be flute professor at UCF, and so that kind of led me to that. But it could have been either or.
I don't know that I had a moment. I think that I was always going to be a musician, and I didn't really have a choice in that matter. Like, it was just who I was. Like, I was playing piano by ear when I was, like, in my walker as a baby playing Christmas carols. And, like, it was just always what I was. There was never any other, let me do this kind of thing.
So you were bouncing around in those, like, baby bouncers with a little Kinder Music keyboard?
I had a little toy piano. But I also had, like, our regular upright piano. And
we might need that next year if you still have it.
No, my mom sold it, and I'll never forgive her for that.
Oh, no. Well,
yeah.
So you would bounce up to the piano.
And, like, play Christmas carols. Yeah.
Quick question.
There's photos.
What was your Christmas carol?
I remember Jolly Old Saint Nick as, like, my fave, but I don't... my nickel.
Soulmates.
How could you
I don't know.
separate soulmates, Tracy?
I know.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Nick's really torn up. Okay, all right. So you were always going to be a musician because you were playing Jolly Old St. Nicholas while bouncing around in your tiny tot little like boop and squoot, right? So, so at what point you play French horn? So at what point did you decide on French horn, and at what point were you like, absolutely, I'm going to do this, and by the way, I'm going to school for it?
I started French horn very, very late. I did piano and then saxophone and then horn. And I went to college not really knowing what I was doing. And it was that first year that I settled on playing the horn. And it was probably just... That was the first time in my life that I was really studying music and working with a teacher one-on-one on an instrument that wasn't piano. And I think it was just... Bless you. Building that relationship made me be like, oh, this is something really special. And I felt like I finally found my place.
And yet, they both abandoned it.
Well,
No.
not only are they both, like, you both have doctorates
On our instrument.
on your instruments.
On our instruments, yeah.
So they're both Dr. Bass and Buonanni.
Yeah.
And...
That's why the
See-
sign out front says the doctors are in.
Yes, and that is an incredible amount of school on your instrument to then have pivoted to library. However, I feel like a question, do you think someone could be a music librarian without being a musician?
No, because
No.
you have to be a musician. You have to you have to know the language of music. You have to have some context within the job. You could learn all of that without touching an instrument, but just because you don't touch an instrument doesn't mean you're not a musician, right? Like I think becoming a musician and understanding the language of music is the job.
There's also a lot of nuances with being a performer and having experience as a performer that make you more equipped for this kind of work, because you know what the people that you're handing out this music to want and need. And that's why, like, we still play. We both still play. We sub with the orchestra. Like, I think it's really important for librarians, no matter what you're doing or where you are, like, to have some sort of performance upkeep a little bit if you can, because, I mean, we're very lucky to be able to do that here. But
Yeah.
it really does keep that perspective of, oh, that's why we do this.
I mean, 1,000%. And so now I'm genuinely curious, when did you start to pivot? Or what were your first experiences as music librarians? Because I know, for example, I used to work as an assistant librarian in this library, and so it started off with just, I can do bowings, my handwriting is nice enough, I can literally copy bowings out, that's easy, I'm a bass player, I know how these work. And then it got to, oh, can I come in and can I scan things, can I check for errata, things like that. And so I don't have the drive to become a music librarian, but it's the little tasks that start to add up. So what were your first little tasks, do you think?
I started doing things in undergrad. Like, we had orchestra librarians, but they were basically just, you stuffed the folders and kept track of who got things. It wasn't, intense work like what we do here. And then in grad school, I did some library work. It was part of my assistantship fellowship thing there. And then I kind of forgot about it and didn't really think about it while I was freelancing. I spent several years freelancing, teaching, playing, and then I went back for my doctorate, and while I was doing that, I did summer festivals as a librarian. And just because I wanted something completely different and outside of what I was doing in school, I wanted like an escape in the summers. And that's when I was kind of like, oh, wait, you can make a living doing this? Before that point, I had never considered it. And I feel like it kind of followed me into where I am now.
So my first ever experience as a librarian, and I put that in air quotes because I, in high school, just wanted to be able to look at everybody's part. Like, I've always kind of been just a music nerd, and so I was the band librarian for my high school, and I basically did nothing except for sit in the room with all the music and go through it all. And I wasn't ever handing anything out or doing anything productive. I was literally just looking at all the parts, and I would like take home, and this is again part of my story with learning all these instruments. So I would like
Nick, would you just list real fast how many instruments you played through high school?
through high school. So I started on alto saxophone, then I taught myself flute, as we discussed, and then I taught myself clarinet because it's very similar to saxophone. And then my band director's like, could you teach yourself oboe? So I taught myself oboe, and then I taught myself bassoon. I mean, I also learned like brass instruments. Like I could play like euphonium, and I could play some random stuff on horn. Like I mean, there's only 3 or 4 buttons, so like compared to flute or bassoon, right? Like what are you doing?
You heard it here first, guys. There's only 3 buttons.
You know it doesn't even have any buttons.
Trombone.
That one I never did. I never, because again, I think maybe that's out of my perception of an instrument. Like, this is easy, and then if you know what a trumpet should sound like, just make it sound like that.
Okay.
And
Anyway,
that's how you become a musician.
Okay. All right. So at least 7 instruments, if not more. So you just wanted to see what all the parts looked like
because I was that kid in class that would, God, I'm obnoxious.
Were you like,
He
I
said
can
it.
play your part better than you
Yes. Yeah.
we're
can? That's some flute player.
And so I would just know, like, we'd be in class and things would, like, something would be going wrong, and I'd be like, that's not what the clarinets have.
And you'd
You
be
know?
like, wait, how hard can it be? How hard can this really be? And then you went and you took an extra clarinet home and the parts because you had access to
That's
the
what I
parts
did.
as
And I
library.
would go
and you-
home and, like, play with a recording and learn all the parts.
and would be like, so it really isn't that hard.
Yeah.
and meanwhile you have some poor 8th grade clarinet player who's just like, okay, I don't know what your deal is, but you need to back.
No, but I would help. Like, I would literally, like, there was a class, and, like, I would sit there and help them with their part. Like, no, it's this fingering, it's that. It's
I could
Help them.
I could see though how so much of this energy translated over. So, okay, so you were keeping track. You were systematically keeping track of everything that everybody was playing because you were.
yeah, I still do. That's part of this job.
It's actually we're very grateful for that part of that job because it makes a huge. Talking about being a musician and being in the music library, I actually go to you a lot when we have things like, okay, this calls for 13 horns and doubled like 2 pianos. How can we actually address this?
Yeah.
And you know how to comb through and stitch things together and figure out, like, how should this end and how can we comb this out and how can we it's an extremely useful skill, and the fact that you already have that from years and years and years of nosiness.
Of just, being an unbearable nerd.
So I have a question. Were you ever interested in conducting?
I mean, I've conducted, like, flute
course.
choir stuff, and it's like I had to take a conducting class. I am too physically awkward to want to be a conductor.
Oh, that was a good twist to that phrase.
To want?
He wants to be a conductor.
And I say that because I'm sure other people wouldn't say I'm physically awkward. I feel physically awkward, so I would be too in my head constantly. I think I have the brain of a conductor or a band director, but I
Yeah.
don't feel like me in front of the ensemble. I'd be second guessing what I was looking like the whole time to feel comfortable. But I could run a rehearsal, and I have, in teaching and coaching choirs and woodwind sections and stuff like that for years.
Okay, so Tracy, do you feel like we need to define what a music librarian actually does
Yes.
at some point? But do you feel like that kind of wanting to devour knowledge, very eager to have it all laid out in a way that's understandable and can be conveyable,
Attention to detail.
attention to detail, and the inability to admit that something is possibly hard? Do you think that all those qualities make for like an ideal music librarian?
Yeah, if your brain doesn't look like that meme of that, I think it's an artist who in his studio, there's like little pieces of paper and pieces of color and things taped everywhere on top of other things, and it's just like, it's this photo of a man sitting in the middle of a room with a million pieces of paper, but he knows what's on every single piece of paper, and it all makes sense to him. If that's not the inside of your brain, this job's going to be very hard.
Great.
Yeah.
So, okay, so describe then succinctly all of those itty bitty pieces of paper. How would you define a music librarian? I think this might be tough, but what is a music librarian?
The simplest thing I've ever heard is you make sure all the right music is in the right people's hands at the right time. That's the job. There's a million more pieces to that, but that's your goal.
I feel like when we think of librarian, we think of someone who's like filing away things all the time, like in a university library or something like that. But there's very little time spent filing and more kind of really working on the music. What does that look like when you're creating, like, for example, creating an MI booklet, or even creating, what are the things, the page turns, or errata for a masterworks?
So yeah, I mean, obviously there's some filing or organization system. We have our databases and we have everything, organized. But like you said, most of what we do is the actual preparation of that music. And it can really range from super simple, it comes out, you make sure that everything matches because it's been pre-marked or pre-bowed, and then you hand it out to the musicians and it's kind of done.
And there might be a misconception that if you receive music from a publisher of any kind, that the music is already ready to go and that it's been fixed.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
Yes, let's go into this.
Yes.
So let's say we have never performed a piece of music with the Omaha Symphony. Step one, you purchase the music.
Or rent it.
And then
the set arrives and you check it in to make sure you have all the parts. If it's a rental, the publisher should have sent you some sort of listing of everything that they included in your box. Make sure you have everything. Make sure then that it matches the score, because it happens sometimes where there's parts that aren't in the score, or there's things in the score that aren't in the parts. And then from there, it just depends on what the set looks like. The first thing we kind of do here is get out the parts to our principal string players to add their bow markings in. Mm-hmm. You want to take it from there?
So then the next step that we would do is we would have all of still the other string parts, all of the wind parts, brass and percussion and whatever else. So like he said, we would check it against the score, make sure that everything matches. Once we get closer to the actual event, we will go on to our forums and we will look to see if any previous librarian has created an errata list.
Okay, so
an errata list is basically publishing errors.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and ironically, it doesn't matter how many times certain things have been published.
No, they will continue to publish errors in them.
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I will say that there's been times where librarians have either worked directly with publishers on something new and tried to fix a lot of those things. Other times, publishing houses will take pre-existing errata lists from the MOLA, the Major Orchestra Library Association, OLA. They will take errata lists that exist from librarians of the past and make those edits in a new edition. So then that way, hopefully, it corrects those stuff. But always something comes out, because you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of individual notes, articulations, dynamics, tempo markings, all just everything that you visually see on the page could go wrong or be printed wrong. Like there's times where it just notes are missing their stem, or the head of the note is not filled in, so instead of a solid quarter note it looks like a half note.
Wrong number of rests.
Wrong number of rests. I'm just complete sections of music missing that you then would go back in and add into those parts before you distribute them.
And it's a constant thing that's being updated on the MOLA website. Like people are always finding new errata. There's never like okay, this set's perfect now, and no one's ever going to find anything else wrong with it. There's always new things being added, so you have to check the recent additions, and
and I should say
work.
This is what we would do if the set was brand new, never performed from before.
Right.
If the set has been performed from before, we go through and check to find errata from previous performances. So if we get a rental set in that's been used by a previous orchestra, we not only check to see if a librarian has actually put errata on our databases, but we will go through every single part and see if musicians in rehearsal have made any corrections, and then if those are not already online, we will then add them and then check them against the score, make sure that it should be fixed, and then make those changes so that way the set lives in a corrected form.
And that sounds a little crazy and like a lot of work, and it is, but we do that kind of check work as we're doing the prep on the music. So we'll kind of go through the parts if they've been played from before and clean them up a little bit, erase things that don't make sense anymore, or different conductors have different requirements for what they want in the music or not want in the music. So we're doing other things while we're checking for errata, but yeah.
Well, and cleaning it up too, it's like all of us have seen opera parts seem to be the worst offenders, but I have...
The John Adams...
Oh, is it up there?
Kind of took the cake.
Oh, everyone marked every single beat. There's a tick
beat.
mark for every beat.
Okay, so let's explain that. So when librarians are cleaning parts up, the things that they generally, for string players especially, the things that they leave in are principal approved bowings, and conductor approved penciled in maybe dynamic markings or things like that, right? But every musician does things differently to help themselves figure out what's going on. So it might be big tick marks for where the beats are. John Adams is a really good example because it's a minimalist piece in polymeter, and it's harder than it sounds to keep track of where you are. Some musicians are putting in marks so that they know exactly what's happening when and why.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are more aggressive than not.
Quite aggressive.
Sometimes people mark in fingerings, and if it's our sets and there's fingerings marked in,
we leave them.
We leave them, right, because chances are they are going back to
The same players.
exactly. And then inside stand marks on one part of the side of the note, and the outside of the stand marks on the other side of the note. That's all good and fine. But if you get rented parts in or pre-packaged parts in or whatever, and there's fingerings and scribbles all over, you have to erase all of that so that the player can start essentially with a clean slate, or our players can start.
We leave what seems to be helpful. If there's one or two little tuning arrows, like play this note sharp or play this note a little bit flatter, we might leave those because it's a situation of that piece. Like maybe the trumpet player really needs to know that, and then our trumpet player can erase it if they disagree, but we may leave that as a warning, hey, tuning could be off here. But if we get the part and every note has a tuning arrow on it, or we go to the excessive side, we try to leave some helpful things. That way the player has some assistance in interpreting the piece and then can clear it themselves if they don't want it. But when it's egregious and covering music, we're out of here, bye.
And then what does your relationship become? We talked about the score and how sometimes the score does not match the parts, and a rehearsal can be completely derailed if a conductor says, let's begin at rehearsal A, and the orchestra's we don't, what is this A you speak of? We have no A's.
Right. I mean, this is I hope that after all of this you get the sense that we cannot, a rehearsal cannot function without all of this work having been done before. Right? No set comes perfect. Or in any way. Sometimes the conductor shows up with a score that doesn't match the parts and all that, any errata or anything. Think of the amount of time that would take, clarinet, can we check the note in this one? And it becomes this whole back and forth. Time is money, especially in rehearsals. And all the work that you're describing is essential so that a rehearsal can function at all, so that a performance can be put on at all, and that the conductor and the musicians have a chance of And the context that you're talking about of deciding what to keep in the music is also based on your background as performers, right?
Yeah.
Where you say, I know that, okay, maybe this note is always sharp on the clarinet, which you would know from having learned the clarinet. So, okay, so this little thing, is going to be useful or something. But, yeah, it's this is such an underrated background thing that is absolutely essential.
I think it's because you're absolutely right, and I think it's because people just don't know, unless they've been in an orchestra or unless they've been here, they just don't know that you exist. So they see perhaps, one of your traditions before a concert and at intermission is you take the scores from Maestro and you put them on the podium during the concert. And so, very demure, very thoughtful.
Yes, very mindful.
Very mindful. I knew I was going to get that wrong.
But this is also an important thing. This is also across other orchestras. They do this, and every conductor has their own specific way that they want their score and their baton
Yes.
and their other little things put on. Like I found out this summer, Seiji Ozawa always performed from memory. However, he always wanted the score closed on his stand. Right?
that.
Some conductors want to have their own baton when they walk out. Some conductors want the baton laid out a certain way, either across or in front or whatever. You have a little handkerchief. You have,
Some have extra batons just in case they throw one.
Yep.
Cough drops. Yep.
Lozenges, yes, exactly.
So you guys are like the stewards of a conductor's health and comfort, so that they know, like, if they walk out
That's
on
technically
stage.
Jamie and Joel. However,
Let me rephrase. You are like, because we've also seen, conductors are also using any time before a concert. Some of them are using that time to mentally, like, walk through the score again. Others aren't. I know that you've gone into that dressing room and you've had to literally, like, pull the score away
scores.
from,
Yeah.
We're tuning in 30 seconds.
Pull scores away from conductors that are still in their underwear, yes.
After,
2 minutes before downbeat. It happens. It's fine.
Look, you know what? Everyone's got a process. And
These are the little behind the scenes. I want to say backstage. These are the stories you've been waiting for.
literally backstage. Yes,
You'll be standing in, like, there just waiting. And this is not Omaha Symphony specific. This is all orchestra librarians across all orchestras of the world.
Right into osabackstage@gmail.com if you, as a music librarian, have had to deal with a conductor without pants on.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe don't. Okay, no, but in all seriousness. Yeah,
So it's a thing across, it's just one of those things, like, they are, just as when you arrive as a guest to a concert and you're sitting in the hall and you hear, the principal horn player playing that one really hard thing like 5 times in a row because they want to make sure that they're going to nail it before the concert starts. That's what the conductor's kind of doing in their dressing room at times. There are other conductors that are like, nah, I'm good. Get it out of my hands because otherwise I'm going to obsess. We have other conductors, someone maybe that's sitting here that loves to put their own music out, which I love because that's her personality. That's what she likes to do. And so I just make sure she's good and that she doesn't need anything else. But I know that she will go out there and put her score exactly how she wants it because that's part of her process of preparing for a show. And so, like, it's whatever they want is really what we're doing.
I love that. I have a quick tangent question. Since we're all musicians and we all have performed as instrumentalists, do any of us have things that they have to play on stage before a concert, like noodles that they have to do, notes that they have to play, a certain scale, a certain tradition? Like you're talking about the horn player. There's always a horn wobble that I'm hearing backstage at some point.
I don't know that I do. There's a very certain specific thing that I play when I tune.
Okay.
Every time.
That counts.
Same.
But like other than that, there's not like a
A G D E D. I'm checking like open strings kind of sounding.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, A D E D. Yes.
Yeah, because it's tuning my left hand and my right hand, and so I know, like where my flute is sitting.
I like that.
Yeah, you only have 4 buttons, 3
I've only
buttons
done
and a
the
trigger.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. No. It's checking that I know where my pitch is sitting on both halves of the instrument, because it changes. That's fun.
I love that. I play the scales from the finale of Brahms 2 every time because I have to do that, otherwise the world will end.
So my therapist describes that as OCD.
I haven't seen my therapist in approximately 3 months, so I don't know what she'd call it.
Especially if you're going to catastrophize it to that the world will end.
I'll schedule an appointment. Okay, so we've touched on what errata are. We've touched on your relationship to, say, like a Masterworks orchestra, right? Can I tangent really fast? Because you said a moment ago when we first started talking about conductors that most people wouldn't know we exist unless they saw us put the scores out at the beginning. I just meant more like...
No, but that's our job.
Yeah, if no one knows we
don't
ever
want,
there, great.
That's our whole goal.
Yeah, please don't talk to us.
That's
our goal.
Is that if we do our jobs right, no one should have to talk to us about work.
You see, that's a very backstage attitude.
Yeah.
That's a very, very back of house, operations, artistic, library. Like if you... Okay, so fill in the blank. If I have done my job, then...
No one has to talk to me.
No one knows I'm there.
I mean, okay, I also want to just clarify, though. They're also here before any musicians are here, before any service. And then they're here until the end of service to make sure that everything went smoothly throughout the service. And that goes for every concert as well, because you don't know...
every rehearsal and everything.
Every rehearsal, every concert, a librarian, at least one, is always there, ready to put out any fires. We had one thing last year, which was 10 minutes before the first rehearsal, where we had to make a cut, and in order to make that last minute cut, we had to, that was like we are firefighting with the librarians, where one person was like redoing the maestro's score, so you're taking out the coils and cutting out music.
That, but what was it?
It was the magic show.
Yes.
As Michael, and he was E.T. And he was E.T. because it was an 8-minute long. I don't know if you want to keep this. There was an 8-minute long piece, and he wanted it cut to 3 minutes. So we got it cut to 3.5 minutes. But that means a huge amount of music had to be cut, like from the right smack in the middll. So you were like coiling,
I did the
music with a score. But then we also had to
let the musicians
the musicians know. But that's where library is essential, where it's like, how do we package this in a way that's going to be the most clear way of expressing this cut to the musicians. And then you guys had printed out all of these and had cut them into pieces of paper so that they could be hand delivered to each stand. Like, this is, again, 10 minutes before the rehearsal starts, passing them out to the musicians so that nobody, even though we were making an announcement, everyone would also see it visually.
Exactly. It's your job is almost to make it so that we don't have to think at all.
Yeah.
That's really it. It's like, because I don't necessarily, like, if I'm looking at the music, like, well, where do I go from here? Something has gone wrong. Yeah. It's things like that my eyes will just go and then continue on, and it works like a charm. So really, that if you have done your job, no one on orchestra, no one on that stage has to think twice about what they're supposed to do ever. And even and I know that there are some things out of your control. Like you're talking about the big coils, right? So Ernest scores, and when we do Masterworks concerts, like normal scores, see if I can give an example.
Like all these. They're like 9 by 12, 10 by 13.
Right. So here's this beautiful Rachmaninoff Isle of the Dead score, right? And look how it's just this one piece of music.
Stapled.
It's stapled. It's beautiful. It
no big deal.
Flat. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then you have the beginning of.
Imagine this, but 100 times thicker.
I should have brought Little Mermaid scores.
Yeah.
And it's all, and Ern shows are all different pieces, they tend to be different pieces stacked on top of each other, and he can't have 20 or 24 scores that he has to keep.
That could end up out of order.
Right.
I think that's one of the big reasons that he likes it that way.
Doesn't have to think.
Yeah.
He can just do. And so that means you have to coil it. You have to collate it and then coil it and then make sure that the page turns work out. And then, but then God forbid something happens where like there's a cut or you have to rearrange the order or something. That means completely restructuring that score.
Which happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you guys have never once complained about it.
No, we complain.
We whine about it once it's over.
Yeah.
But you do it.
Oh, we do.
Well, yeah,
it.
of course.
That's our job.
That's,
Duh.
So,
but everybody complains about their job.
do they? You don't, right?
No, we don't.
Not once?
Oh, wow. Well,
Not-
we're in the
never
wrong
not
field,
once.
Tracy.
Email OSA backstage.com if you've ever complained about your job. Okay, I want to. I also. So a lot of this is definitely like new in the sense of it's not just being pretty and walking on stage and making it so that people on stage don't have to
not
think.
pretty?
Right? You are very pretty. It's not just about being pretty.
Oh.
Okay. You also have this. One of the great things about auditioning for a new orchestra librarian is the test. Like part of the process is this phenomenal test that, again, nobody who has never been around a music library has ever possibly seen, right? And so it involves, can you just walk us through what a music librarian audition test looks like?
So I'll kind of walk you through the whole process, and then you can talk about our test that we just did. So the way we just did our searches here was we did a resume round where candidates, do you want me to say numbers? How many people? Is that interesting?
Yeah.
We had about 60 applicants for a part-time job and a full-time job. Some of them overlapped. They were interested in both. And from the resumes, I looked at those and decided, okay, these people have experience in libraries. These people have experience as a musician. Those two things, powers combined, means I can give them a phone screening. And we phone screened about half of those candidates. And from there, we sent out a test, which is just a test of like library skills and knowledge. And then after that, we did a final interview with a committee. But do you want to tell them about what our test looks like?
Yeah, so, and the test is different at every orchestra because it's designed by either the committee or the current librarians. And I should say that not all library jobs require a test to be done, but most do.
And that's partially because in some orchestras, the library is considered part of the orchestra, and in some orchestras, it's considered part of the staff.
Yes.
You guys are considered part of the staff, but we still do a test because that's a tradition we've carried on from previous librarians.
Yeah. So, and the difference between that is can fall a lot in just like the committee or who's actually doing the interviews. So things like that. But we treat it like it's an audition, just like a lot of orchestras do. And so just as a, bass player that's going for an orchestra audition, you have to have a certain set of skills that you will be able to do at the job.
Yes,
and
to get my daughter back from those kidnappers.
Yes.
Keep going, sorry. So certain set of skills.
Certain set of skills. I set you up for that. And so, when you take an instrument audition, you're playing a prepared set of excerpts for a blind committee behind like a screen. And then for an orchestra job, or for a music librarian job with an orchestra, you are presenting those skills in the form of a test. So the test normally is multiple parts, will include general knowledge questions. So weird music terms in foreign languages, and you have to provide the definition. Questions that are just general, like we're looking for, I can't even think of one right now that we had on there. Like the horn call. We want to play the horn call on this concert, and you need to know that it's a Haydn symphony and the specific number of that symphony, right? You have things on there that are general questions about instrumentations and what you would tell personnel if you were going to perform Holst planets. Like, okay, one, there's a lot of people on that stage, but there's some really special things like having two timpani or needing an organ, and that's all stuff that might not naturally be on a stage when you're performing a normal Masterworks concert.
Because you're always working in tandem, not just with the conductor and with the musicians, but also with personnel to match instrumentation and make sure that they hire the people need to.
Yeah.
And then with ops to make sure that there's room on stage for those people.
Yeah, like
full percussion list.
If we have a drum set as part of repertoire as part of the instrumentation for that concert, does it need to be somebody up front in a combo, or is this something that will be done from the percussion section? Operations doesn't just know that. They can't pull that knowledge out of thin air, and so they rely on the library to help inform them of those types of decisions.
So you ask people about questions like that show that they have worked in an orchestra or have worked with that kind of problem solving before. Okay.
And then we have questions like putting cuts into a part. So you will almost always have to do cuts of some sort on a library test. And chances are it's always going to be a brass instrument or something that has multiple keys that it plays in, because they want to see if you catch that the instrument changed keys in the middle of a cut. Like or they might even do like a flute part where the flute changes from flute to piccolo or flute to alto flute, but they want to see if you're catching that something like that happens underneath a cut, because that's the stuff that could stop a rehearsal. If a clarinet part goes from B flat to A and you put a cut and the clarinetist is not notified that what's after the cut is a different key of instrument, and all of a sudden they're playing, in the wrong key and no one knows what's going on. So we test them for that, and then we have them do bowings, where we will have them transfer bowings from an old part to a new part. And we want to see what they do with that.
And it's more fun when they're different editions.
Yeah. Because then the measure numbers don't line up, or the page turns don't happen in the same place, or sometimes there's errata that's been fixed, or new errata. And so it's interesting to see what people do with that. And then we do...
There's a prioritization test at the end that you guys do that I really love, and it's because they've shown that this person can hopefully handle all of these more academic sides of things, but the last thing on this test is this essentially list of 8 to 11 tasks that you have to accomplish, and you have to tell these guys in what order would you accomplish them. And I found that fascinating the first time I saw it in a test. But why is that so important?
So we give them basically, here's your schedule for the day. This is what time it is currently. Here's 11 issues to deal with. And there's no right answer to this, but there are definitely wrong answers about how you prioritize things. And that part of the test is really to see how people's brains work. Like, we want to see, my favorite thing to put on there is make a cup of coffee or make a pot of coffee. Yeah. To see if someone's like, I have to have this first thing, or I'm not going to make it through the day. Or if they'll put it in the middle and be like, I deserve a treat now, or at the end.
Yeah.
Or some people don't like coffee. Monsters. But it's to see how their brains work and how they could handle a lot of pressure of a lot of people want different things from you at the same time. Who is the most important based on your schedule for that day?
Yeah.
And I think there's some you can see some personality in there too, because the amount of work that we do, again, everyone's working really hard, but I do feel like sometimes we see your task list and it's just it's Sisyphean, right? Like, it just doesn't end. You just you continue on, and so seeing someone tackle a potential or a hypothetical task list with humor and good attitude, even if they want to be a little bit like, I'm going to complain about this later, but for right now I'm going to.
What could you complain about work? Just circling back.
My husband would tell you I have never.
So what I love when I was like grading the tests is, yes, seeing personality within someone who can organize their day. I know that the person who has accepted the job and will be starting shortly, like, one of the prompts on there is that the person who's conducting the choral collaborative has requested 75 new piano vocal scores for their rehearsal tonight, right? And he wrote, "You're joking," like next to it.
Which is exactly what we would say.
Yeah.
And then we would do it because
but
we
then
have
you
to.
do it. And so it's like he put it in the place where you would want him to put it.
Yeah.
But just that little addition of "you're joking," I was like, exactly. Because that's the type of personality. Like, this is the most nonsensical thing. And the sad part is I've talked to him since then, and we discussed the test a little bit, and I was like, I'm not joking. That will happen.
And did he go, I will have to think about this?
Which we say that's
Well, but something like that is seeing that the person understands that to get 75 piano vocal scores, all you have to do is open the file and hit print 75 times. Like, just hit the number 75, print.
Right.
So, do they put that at an earlier point in the day and then list, while that's printing, I can send these 3 emails to help respond to the other things on this list.
Yep.
So it's seeing that they understand that when you have to make 75 piano vocal parts, it's not that you're standing at the machine
pressing the button
for 2 hours. You literally just have to start the job, and understanding that that's the way we work, right? Like, we do things overlapping. It's like cooking. I've actually talked about this in music preparation when students are like working on a lot of music as a teacher, but it's the same thing being a librarian. It's like cooking Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like, you put the turkey in the morning because that's the thing that's going to take the longest, but once it's in there, you don't do much. It's not like that cooks for however many hours and you don't do anything else during that.
You're not a sim.
Yeah. Right? Like, you do that, and then it's like, well, I'll peel the potatoes and get those ready so that I can boil them closer to the time. Or I'll make the cranberry and put it in the fridge so that it gets cold throughout the day. That's kind of like what we do. We're working on, 65 plus different programs every season here. And so it's understanding what is the most pressing and what needs love, but only 10 minutes that day because it'll just push it along.
So would you say then, if someone's interested in becoming a music librarian, or at least considering it as an option, would you say that learning good time management and good organization is one of the most important things that they could do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. One of the questions I asked in the pre-screening for this is, what are your systems of organization? Like, do you write things down? Do you do it digitally? Like, how does your brain prioritize and decide, this is what I'm doing right now, this is what I do next? Just to kind of see, well, to check in and make sure they have something. Because some people that we spoke to were like, I don't know, I just, do what I've got to do. And I'm like, no. You're going to forget something.
If you didn't say the word list at any point.
Yeah.
So what else would you recommend? One of the questions I sent over to you was, if you could give yourself advice.
She sent questions?
No, not to you. Only to Tracy.
I closed my email account. Bye.
Okay,
Explains
fine.
a lot.
So in this surprise question we've never seen before, okay, if you could give advice to your younger self when you were first starting these moments that would lead to where you are now, if you could give yourself advice on this journey, what do you think you would say?
I would have started doing summer festivals as a librarian sooner.
And that possibly could mean internships if you've never done anything before, or like if you're at a festival and they have work, they have work opportunities. That could be a good place. Okay, Nick, what about you? Would you have stolen more music?
I never stole music. I
Sorry, would
always
you have
returned it.
Would you have studied more music?
Thank you. I'm one of those weird people, and it's because my mom is such a great person, but she always told me, like, everything happens for a reason, and, like, I would not be sitting here right now doing this podcast with the three of you if I made different choices. Mm-hmm. So, like, for me, I don't necessarily have anything that I would do different, because it may not have led me here. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't know what that chain of events would have looked like if I did an extra summer festival, or if I was like, well, because I'm going to be a librarian, I won't get my doctorate. You know, like that allowed me, that time in school is when I became the head band librarian at my university. And then because of that, I was offered, well, I applied for and got the job with my first professional orchestra, like regional orchestra, as a librarian. And so, like, again, if I decided, like, oh, I won't take out the student loans for my doctorate or whatever because I'm only gonna be a librarian, like, I wouldn't have been in school and had that situation present itself. So I don't know that I would do anything different.
And if you had made other choices, we would not have sat next to each other in that.
No.
This is a crazy story.
Okay, so Serena applied for the assistant conducting job here, and part of that was that they were kind of like walked around the Holland Center and they were just like introduced to the library as candidates, and that was that, you know.
May 2024.
Great, love that.
Yep.
So
May 8th.
it was a blur of time for me. So this was during my first season here, at the end of my first season with the Omaha Symphony.
He was still recovering from Christmas at this point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So I knew who got the job by their candidate number or letter, I forget, number 6. And I remember like, that's all I knew. And I knew that people had liked this candidate. And so I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like, we didn't really know anything other than that. So I go to the MOLA conference that year in Cleveland. And I, like, randomly, you had dinner plans. So I was like, well, I need dinner plans. And so I started talking to people, and they were like, well, we're actually going to the concert tonight, but I have an extra ticket. And I was like, okay, cool. So I, like, hadn't planned on going to this concert, didn't know whatever was going to happen. So I go to the concert, go to my seat and sit down, and there's a guy sitting next to me with, like, a group of people, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, we are just here with this, like, youth orchestra, and they told us to just find empty seats in the balcony, but we'll move if these are yours. I was like, honestly, I wasn't even supposed to be here. This is just the ticket that I got from a friend. And so I was like, no big deal. So they play the opening piece. And then after that, he switches with a lady, and she sits down next to me. And so then we're just sitting there, and it gets to, like, intermission or just before intermission. I forget. But she like leans over and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she explains it to me, and I was like, it's really okay. I was like, I'm just here for the orchestra library conference, and I didn't buy these tickets, so I don't care where I sit. And then she goes, oh, that's so cool. And then we, like, started talking, and she goes, where are you a librarian at? And I said, oh, I'm with the Omaha Symphony. And she goes,
was like, so am I.
She goes, oh my God, I just got the job as the assistant conductor. And I was like, you're candidate 6.
Which is how he's addressed Serena from that.
And so, we just randomly ended up sitting next to each other at this conference, like, literally like a week
Cleveland.
after you got the job, right? Or something. It was like shortly.
It was like really
days.
short. Days after I found, like, we had all kind of finalized it all and everything. And I remember, because we popped in and kind of, all I remember from the library was how amazing this room looked. And I had a hard time remembering faces and all that. But we took a picture. It was very cool.
It is such a small world. And I
think it's Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello, come in.
We have our new assistant librarian. I don't know if you can see her in the video. Nicole, wave for the nice people.
I don't know if you can see my
Yes.
We're almost done. Because of course these guys they have to get back to work. We have to get back to work. I just have one more question for both of you. Nick, you've played every instrument known to man, but
Never strings. It just didn't work.
Okay, with that in mind, 30 minutes on stage, no consequences. You could play any instrument you wanted to. What instrument would you play? Better be a string instrument.
It could be percussion too.
No,
A lot of
harp.
Oh.
That's a new one, right? I don't think.
Because I would just want to. Everything would have a gliss. Into every downbeat.
Would you play Sleigh Ride on harp?
Yeah, I would. That was another fun story.
We did capture that on when Jana and Paul were on. So
Okay, perfect.
perfection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tracy?
God, I don't know. Cello. Probably cello.
I think that's the
Everyone
instrument
probably
that's
says cello.
yes,
I
that
didn't
has
have
the
string
most-
programs where I'm from, and I think if I did, I would be a cellist.
Nicole, we're gonna drag you into this.
okay.
If you had 30 minutes on stage and you could play any instrument you wanted, what instrument would you play? No consequences. You're not going to get in trouble for any of this.
Shoot.
Also, welcome to the Omaha Symphony.
Thank you.
Also, what instrument do you play? What's? Oh
Of course it's flute.
yeah! Yes.
There's too many.
That was my only red
Yes,
flag.
and that's why I don't play it, actually. Oh gosh. I want to be good at saxophone so bad. I'm really terrible at it, but it's so fun. I just like kind of the growly sound. It's awesome.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yes. Keep Nicole forever. Okay. Thank you very much. Tracy, we're sad to lose you, but Nick, we're really happy that you're stepping into head librarian.
Oh.
We're going to miss you. I'm not going to hug you right now.
Don't
Please
do
don't.
You've been overdoing it with the hugs, but thank you both very, very much.
You're welcome. This was fun.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God.